Welcome, everyone. Today, I have the lovely Amber with me as a guest, and we're going to talk about attraction. We're going to talk about confidence. We're going to talk about what confidence looks like. What does attraction look like? How do men become the best versions of themselves? How do women become the best versions of themselves? But how are you today, Amber?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing amazing as well. It's wonderful to have you here.
Wonderful to be here.
Awesome. Let me read you this to begin. This is from a Chris Williamson video, and it's about marrying the perfect woman. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. But he says, how to make marriage an easy yes. Find a woman that believes in your dreams more than you do, makes you want to be a better man, is willing to work alongside you to get there, is grateful for whatever you have. Just marry her. What are your thoughts on that?
Hmm. So that definitely sounds promising. It sounds ideal. Um, but that kind of is giving me the idea that if he didn't have that, then he wouldn't maybe be happy outside of that again. It's kind of like what we spoke about last time. So I've had a similar experience to that, and that's kind of scary because then that puts a lot of pressure on the spouse that if she is not embodying that role or if she had an off day, then is he self sufficient outside of that? So that's a little scary to me.
And that's the one thing I disagreed with the most with what he said. Find a woman that will believe in your dreams more than you do. And
Hmm.
I would say, Chris Williamson, stop right there
Hmm.
because you can't ever expect to find that person. You can't expect someone to believe in your dreams more than you do as a man. If anything, you can try to get a woman to buy in to your vision and your dreams, but that's a completely different thing than having the woman believe in them more than you. To me,
Hmm.
that's setting yourself up for dependency, if you ask me.
Yes, that's the exact word. That's what it sounds like. And I feel to have the woman who loves you unconditionally is and is going to support you to allow you to to be by your side as you pursue that dream. Yes, 100%. It's not for her to say no, you shouldn't do this or no, you shouldn't do that. I feel you need to own that dream and go for it and have somebody who stands there throughout. But I don't feel you need to be relying on her to be holding it all together for you.
Correct. And that's the one part I didn't like. The rest of it I can see because, yeah, you want someone that's going to be supportive of you and have your back and is going to try to be there with you on your journey. Absolutely. Grateful for what you bring her. Absolutely. You want that. Is willing to be a good teammate with you that you can build a strong foundation with. Absolutely. You want that. Just
Mhm.
that first one, I thought I had a little bit of an issue with because I would tell any man, you don't want to have to rely on that. If you're the kind of guy that needs the woman to become that, I don't know about that. That's not a,
I,
I don't know.
I'm with you on that. And I just feel like, as like we spoke about before we went live, it's sometimes scary when you're going all in for a dream. So when the pressure gets real and it comes down to paying bills or life gets busy, the wife or the partner might try to discourage you, like maybe that dream's not a good idea out of her own fears. But if that's something you're committed to, you need to lead in that direction regardless, and have that conversation with her. So otherwise I feel then the resentment's going to breed out of that if you don't.
You just made a great point with that too, because that happens a lot.
Hmm.
If a guy's not where the woman feels comfortable with him being yet, a
Hmm.
lot of times they might try to talk you out of it. They'll
Hmm.
say, no, you need to go get a stable job. You need to do this. And of course, depending on where you are, if you have a child to provide for, now it's become a little bit of a different story. But before you get married or before you have kids with somebody, then if she's trying to do that, I would say, well, you better not have her be believing in your dreams more than you because now you're just going to quit.
Exactly.
Imagine she does that now. She says, yeah, I want you to do this instead. You're just going to give up. And that's
Exactly.
not what you need as a guy. You got to believe in it more than her. And you could
Yes.
say, hey, babe, I got this. I'm going to make this work no matter what.
Yes. The I got this goes a long way. I feel like, speaking from my own perspective as a woman, the I got this puts us at rest and at peace so much. And it's so simple. Just saying, I got this. We just need to know, like, if you don't have to have all the answers, but we need to know that you're leading and it's under control.
It doesn't take much sometimes, but
Mhm.
it just takes that calm confidence.
Yes, exactly.
And I had said something else in there too that reminded me of the next thing. Men must become, and women just are. What do you think of that expression?
Men must become and women just are. I'm not even sure if I fully understand it. So women just are. Is that because men are the ones leading and they're always striving and women are holding the space? Like, can you explain how you see it? I don't even really get it.
A man, for example, no woman's going to want a man that's homeless. Why is a woman not going to want a man that's homeless? Because a man, and part of what makes a man attractive, is not just his face, but it's about how he controls the space around him. It's how he is able to provide. It's how he's able to be the best version of himself. You
Mhm.
have to become something as a man. And there's a reason why the guy who just works a minimum wage job his entire life, for example, is chronically underemployed. Is that man going to be attractive to a woman?
Mm-mm. No.
No, it's possible they can be in some cases. There are some basement dweller dudes that maybe were the rock star types that they had all this wild ambition, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, they're still living in their mother's basement or something. And they can sell that dream a little bit. But a man does have to become something. I don't see too many men that just are, and women are going to like them just for being. It's
Mhm.
something people say. They say it to themselves to make themselves feel better. Oh, men don't have to become anything. I would like them anyway.
Mhm.
Well, do you see too many homeless men that women are lined up to date?
No.
Do you see any dudes that are have no ambition making a minimum wage job? Too many of them that are in a place that a lot of women want?
Mm-mm.
Probably not. But women, on the other hand, if a woman is attractive and she can be supportive and she can be whatever she wants to be, of course, too. But unfortunately, all it takes, if she's pretty enough, that would be enough for a lot of guys.
Mm.
You're pretty enough, they'd want to swoop in, maybe try to take care of you. And this is another thing. People were telling me last week it's a red flag to say you want to protect and provide for a man.
Yes. But
Or excuse me,
I,
no, for a woman, excuse me. They said
oh,
it's a red flag to want to protect and provide for a woman. Big difference.
is it a red flag?
I don't think so.
No, I think maybe the way society is going now gets misconstrued a little bit, but I think at its authentic state, I think that's basically how we were designed to be. If both sides are respectful of one another's role. But to go back to women just are, I don't completely agree. I do agree that if a woman's supportive and she takes care of herself and she's attractive and living her healthiest life, yes. But I feel from my experience, if a woman is not, you know, in that role, like say she's having an off day and our emotions are all over the place sometimes, I've experienced that men can't handle that. So I wasn't always able to just be. I had to be in that role that the man expected me to be in. So, not necessarily my authentic self, the role that men see you as, they perceive you as. You know what I'm saying? So, if you wake up and you're having an off day or a moody day or a less attractive day, you can't just be because then that might not be working for him. Do you get it?
I know what you're saying, but ideally, you
Yes.
could just be. If a man
Oh,
is in a good place, then you could just be. But
oh,
and that doesn't mean that you wouldn't work or still do whatever you want to do. That's not the point of it. You can still do whatever you want. And that's where people were trying to pull the protect and provide for a woman as a red flag thing, because they said, oh, lots of abusive guys, they want to do that just to control you, just to
Mm,
have leverage over you and power over you. And sure, that can happen. That can absolutely happen. But to say flat out, just a red flag to want to protect and provide for a woman, I don't, just flat out, I wouldn't say that. Yeah, you got to be careful, but I'm not
mhm.
going to say it's a red flag.
Right. Like you said exactly it. If you're a healthy man, or if you're coming from the right space, providing for a woman or having that drive to do that would be all right if you are in that healthy space. Because some
Right.
men do it from, like you said, from the wanting to control. So I guess it's the people who've had that negative experience from it now are now not going back there.
Right. And that's the other part that I would also agree with you about too with women. It's not just that they need to be, because that's not enough to raise like your children
Mm,
just to be, right? You still want them to have a certain intelligence level. You want them to have morals, values, principles, to have something going for them in that regard too. And that's something that's more than just you are. No, it's a little bit of wisdom.
mm-hmm,
It's how are you going to carry yourself? That
mm,
is important too. That is
mm-hmm,
important too.
mm-hmm. I agree.
And so that's where I would say it's not as simple as men must become and women just are. But I do think it's an interesting talking point to talk about
Mm-hmm.
what what comes up in the conversation when you bring that up.
Yes. For sure. And I feel if both sides were in their healthiest space, that would exactly be true, that statement. But so many of us are not operating from our place we should be at. So that's why I feel it's not always working.
Right. And that also reminds me the triggers, because when people are triggered or wounded, maybe that's a better word, when people are wounded, all sorts of things can really bother them and upset them. And
Hmm.
I think that's a man and woman's goal both, to heal those things. But what do you what do you look for in a man to know he's in a good emotional spot? He's maybe has emotional intelligence, or you can sense that this guy's safe.
Mm. So I think when you initially, like if you first meet someone, it would be hard to tell. Like I can feel people's energy. I'm really pretty attuned and empathetic. But for the average person, I feel the best way is to just engage in normal conversation and watch for the responses. So not to hold back and try to, you know, definitely don't be inauthentic and being having a facade. So just be yourself. If you're in a bad mood, I'm not saying to be rude to them, but just be yourself and watch how they respond. And I feel that's the quickest way for them to just reveal themselves. You know, if you said, "Oh, I don't like how you said that to me. That offended me," just something like that, and then you would see they'd instantly be reactive or triggered by something so simple as you just speaking your truth to them. You would see it in their response so blatantly. So that's
Mm,
the best way, even through text messages. A few basic questions, if you're being your authentic self, would reveal that so quickly.
mm. Now, picture back right now to the last guy that really piqued your interest. Do you have someone in mind?
I think so. Let's see the question that follows, and I'll tell you.
Well, what was that guy like? How did he carry himself? Was it about his looks? Was it about what he did for work? Was it about just his confidence level? What was it?
I think it's honestly at this phase of my life, it's honestly a blend of all of that. Because, like you said earlier, if there's a guy who is just content on staying in the basement or whatever, you basement dweller, I think you called him, it's not even about how much money do you make. It's where's your drive. There's no drive, there's no ambition. It just speaks to your life as a whole. So that's why that would instantly be a no go for me, because there's no drive. You need somebody ambitious, who's driven, who's showing up to life, you know what I'm saying? So that plays a role. um Definitely, like I said, when you're speaking your truth and if you're like, oh, that offended me, or I didn't like how you said that, and they're like, oh, I'll never say that again around you, or I'm sorry. And they can laugh it off. I just love that. I don't like when people get so offended by basic things or they can't laugh at themselves. So that's
Mm.
important to me. Um, and then looks are obviously important to me, but not, it's like they need to be healthy. So looks doesn't have to be the best looking guy, but it has to be somebody who is in their healthiest self. Like you can see when someone practices good hygiene and self-care and is active, it speaks, they have a glow, mind, body, spirit. So it's really all of that stuff that matters. And that's what I look for.
And you made a good point there too about the people that can laugh at themselves a little bit. They don't take themselves too seriously. There are people that get offended by so much, and to me, they are just completely exhausting.
Oh, yes. So draining. So draining.
And they're
So,
just no fun. They're no
no.
fun. And those are the people that I'm not very compatible with. And those are the people that it feels you have to walk on eggshells around them. It's just
Yes. That's the term. And I've walked on eggshells many, many times. And I will never go back there. So that's exactly it. When it feels easy and your nervous system feels regulated and at peace, you just feel like yourself, that is the best sign that somebody is, somebody is someone I'm looking for.
mm. And that reminds me also, how do you know when a guy is trying too hard? What does that look like to you?
So the biggest turnoff that I cannot stand is the corny jokes. So I feel I hate them. They disgust me. They disgust me. So the minute someone, I am very funny. I have humor. I like to laugh at myself, but I'm not trying to put on a show and come up with these corny jokes. It's just repulsive to me. So when someone comes up with a corny joke, I'm like, oof, like you're trying too hard. So that's what I don't like.
No more. That's what she said or he said. You're telling me?
Yes. You need to stop that joke.
Oh my lord! I I don't know if I will stop them now.
No,
They're
you do
part of
you.
my vernacular now. I just do
Yes.
them. I
Yes.
do them second nature.
That's you though. You do you.
That's right. But there's a fine line, I guess, if you're doing it to try too hard in a way. That's
Yeah.
one way. So the corny jokes, the pickup lines.
Oof. Yes, that's important too. When somebody could just like they just know how to talk to you, like they respect you, like it's okay. You can flirt. I like to flirt. I need somebody who is confident in their flirtatious vibes, but it flows, it's natural, you're not trying, it's just who you are. So it's all exactly like you said, it's all about, is this who I am or am I trying to be something I'm not to come off attractive? It speaks like you need to be authentic. If you're somebody who's more quiet and just chill and low key, then show up that way. Don't try to bring these jokes that aren't you.
And that's a good thing. The congruency is what you're talking about. Be
Yes.
congruent with who you really are. Which reminds me, there was someone that said if you're going to take a woman out on a date, you don't want to do anything that you normally wouldn't do on a first date. You take her to become a part of your life, something that you would normally do. Because it speaks to the point you just said. That's going to be more of a congruent thing to do.
Yes, exactly. And I also feel other women may disagree, but I feel I'm less about these big romantic acts. Like, I don't like it when it's all scripted. I feel like something simple that would be authentic, like, I don't even know what, would speak so much more than trying to do this big gesture that was so staged and so planned. So, it really, to
Right.
me, really is all about the authenticity and just showing up present and showing up as yourself.
And do you see a lot of guys trying to pull these pickup lines? I almost feel it's a joke to even try anymore to do that. Does anyone even do it seriously?
I feel maybe what's replaced that is instantly trying to be like talking dirty. Like
Oh,
I'm not a super avid dater. I've been on the dating apps here and there, chit chat. And some of these people just jump into this banter that they're trying to do and I don't engage and I'm like, you don't even know me. You've never spoken to me. So I feel that's a turn off to just jump into this. and think that this is going to work and pick, like, maybe if you're trying to pick, if it's a men's mentality and they're trying to pick each other up, and I'm not speaking about if they were gay, I'm saying like two men would engage in that, but a woman who's trying to date is not going for this instant dirty talk.
Right.
So I
And
feel
I
like
would say this for a woman's perspective, if a man does that, he's probably not taking you seriously.
that
Probably.
is true.
Well, and it also depends. It depends on what guy's doing it. But if it's a guy who's attractive and has his crap together and he does that right away, that probably just means he wants to hook up.
Yes.
That's more than likely what it means. Now,
Mhm.
if it's someone he'd want to take seriously, then he's going to treat that person differently, I would say.
That is true. And that's why I feel the woman has to have her own self respect and to realize, like, if she's looking for that too, then go have fun. But if you're on there thinking he's going to change, if you engage in that, then you're going to be disappointed.
Absolutely. What do you think about the gentlemen out there that, and we'll say for the women too, but what do you think about the gentlemen that call themselves the kings or alphas? What are your thoughts on that?
So that would be a turnoff because anybody who is an alpha wouldn't have to call themselves an alpha. I feel the alphas are so dominant, but power under control. They don't need an audience. They're crushing it in silence. Their life is going to speak for itself. They don't need to tell you. You're going to see their life as an example. The ones, I was talking with a friend with this, and we were saying that all these people are just talking. I did this and I make this much and I do this. And those ones are the ones that have to talk about it because they're trying to convince one another that they're actually doing something. The one that's not participating in that is probably the one that is outdoing all of them, but they don't have to do that.
Right. It is once you know what it looks like, and I think for some guys, they just never feel real confidence. And if you don't feel it, it's really difficult to know what it would be like.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, you're guessing, oh, this is what a confident guy would do. But when you truly do have a good belief in yourself, and then maybe you have some results to back it up, there's a certain mental energy or just a presence that you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really difficult to fake it. And for example, say somebody drinks. There's a certain level of it's fake confidence, but it's still someone now that is at the least owning themselves. They own it because now they're drinking. They're
Mm-hmm.
getting buzzed to drunk. And it's really difficult to replicate that level if you're not truly confident.
Mm-hmm.
It's thinking about, oh, how would I act if I was drunk right now? Well, if you don't feel that way, it's going to be really difficult. You can try, but it's
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to work. And it's going to seem incongruent.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yes, so you're saying that those men who are talking don't even have a clue what the true confidence would even feel like because they've never experienced it. That could be it. I've never thought of it that way. But either way, if they're doing it to impress a woman or to impress anyone, they need to know that we'd much prefer to hear your journey of, your struggles, or that you're trying to make it, and we'll, journey alongside with you, than have this fake facade that isn't true.
Absolutely. And then that also reminded me, what kind of attachment styles do you see a lot of guys have out there? Do you see them being more avoidant or anxious? Or what do you see?
Um, I feel like I think I've experienced quite a few avoidance. I mean, I've met a few different. I've met attached. I've met the anxious. But lately, I feel in the dating world, it's a lot of the avoidance. So they might come off strong at first, the love bombing. You think, oh my God, and then when the emotions actually start flowing, and you make it past the first phase, then they start pulling away, and I'm like, what is happening? And then I'm like, I think it's that. I think it's the avoidant attachment, avoidant. I don't know the term. I think it's that.
Avoidant.
Yeah, because I've even done my own research to understand what am I experiencing right now. Things are good. You come on strong, and then all of a sudden it's like nothing happened, and then there's like this separation, and I'm like, I think they're getting scared. I think it's that avoidant.
I could see that. And I think women in general, many of them are going to feel more comfortable with an avoidant than they would an anxiously attached guy.
Mm-hmm.
And now, an anxiously attached guy, especially if it's the needy or approval seeking version, women do not like that one bit. Now, there can be a sneaky part of it where a guy might have an anxious attachment, but he displays it in what appears to be more of an assertive and dominant way. And this is the guy that might appear more controlling or might like really lose his temper. And it appears more powerful than the needy and approval seeking version, but it's really just as insecure. It just looks different.
Right.
And I think those guys, even if it is an anxious attachment, they still do better than the guys that have that needy approval seeking thing and they display that in a weak way. Like that's the bottom of the totem pole. The bottom of the totem pole is that guy. He's the guy that gets nothing no matter what because he's not confident. He's got that insecurity. He'll be needy. He's not going to be socially calibrated. He's not going to be able to have fun with her. Those guys never even get their foot in the door.
Yes.
The next level, the anxiously attached guy that might lose their temper, that might be controlling, might get super jealous. And this is a weird thing for women too. Some women, they like that more than they don't sometimes because it shows that the guy cares. Now, of course, not all women are going to think that, but there is certainly a subsector of women that say, well, at least when he's jealous, I know that he cares. I know that he likes me. Especially with borderline women, I've noticed that with them where they think that. They'll say, oh, he at least cares when he's getting angry like that. His anger shows how much he cares. And it's still insecure, of course, but it just looks more attractive because it appears more powerful, even if it is insecure.
Mm-hmm. It's true. But I agree with you that the neediness is at the bottom because then what happens when the woman wants to be independent, she can't because he's clinging. He's threatened when she wants to do something without him. Everything feels like it's like everything's an episode, it's a big ordeal. So,
right.
And then you can't even be attracted to somebody who's smothering you to that degree. And because they're stuck in that style, they might not be aware of it, or then they just get more offended. So I don't think that would even be possible to have a relationship with somebody like that. I don't know what opposite attachment style would complement that one. Maybe you do, but definitely not my style.
Not the a narcissistic woman.
Oh,
a narcissistic woman that would take advantage of it.
Yes, that would be a dream come true for the narcissistic woman.
And you see that. I see that happen a lot. The guys that are a little more insecure, they're not usually successful with women. Wow. Those are the ones that the narcissistic woman comes in there and she thinks, oh, I got this guy right where I want him. I'm going to get him wrapped around my finger. I'm going to be able to control him and he'll do whatever I want. And it does happen that way for a while.
Yes, that's so true. It's like the perfect storm.
Yeah, it's not a bad storm, though. That's not a good storm.
No, for sure. I know how toxic that is. I'm just saying from their perspective, how toxic they are. That's what they're looking for.
And at first, those guys think they've hit payday. Because usually that narcissistic woman is going to be pretty. Mm-hmm. She's going to be more attractive than most of the women he's had success with in the past, if any. And he's going to think, oh my goodness, this is my soulmate. This is the person that the universe put in my life just for me, my missing puzzle piece. Mm-hmm. But it's really just that mirage. It's the love bombing mirage at that point. And those guys, some of them, they get taken for a long ride, let me tell you. And they might have kids with her. They might get married. And the more steps of commitment they do together, the harder it is to untangle it. And it can be a lot. And the same with women too, of course, right? When a woman gets with a toxic dude, the more they do together, the harder it is to untangle it.
Oh, for sure. And I've been love bombed before. And if you're not aware of what you're experiencing, there's nothing better than a love bombing phase, because if you don't know what you're experiencing, because it feels so real, so magical, if they love me so much. And then once that's over with, you don't even know what you've been hit with. So I see how easy people who aren't aware of what they're experiencing fall for it.
Yeah. And let's circle back here. I want to talk about the anxiously attached dudes again. This is what a lot of the dating advice for dudes is focused on. They're focused on that bottom rung because they're the guys that do terrible. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the dating advice, they're trying to get guys from that weak, insecure, needy place to at least a place where they can have some success.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking to the guys in that group, some of the advice for them might appear a little toxic to women in particular because here's the thing. So women hear this advice that's geared towards the guys that are needy and insecure, and they'll think, "Oh my goodness, that's so misogynistic, or that's this, or that's that." But what they have to remember is those women, they're often putting it through the lens of the narcissistic bad boy dude that they were with. That's the opposite of the needy approval seeking version, usually, at least in how it presents itself.
Mm-hmm.
That weak approval seeking dude, he's not even getting in the door. The narcissistic guy might appear to be more attractive and dominant and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
He might also be very insecure too. It
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't appear that way. And that's why they have the girl to begin with. But the needy, insecure guy, they never even get to that point. So the dating advice, they're for that. That the guys at rung. The bad boy dudes, they need the opposite advice. They need the how to be more selfless. They
Mm-hmm.
need more of the how to be more compassionate, to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's very difficult with any generalized dating advice because it depends where you are. It depends on what kind of person you are. Because depending on where you are, you need different suggestions.
For sure.
So Phil Bradley has a question for you, though, before you comment on that. Does height really matter that much to you?
So I don't want to sound super shallow, but I'm going to speak from my truth. And I do have like a cutoff because I mean in the dating world it's such a swipe. We're all entitled now, so you do get to choose your height. So usually I do not click on anybody under 5'10",
Oh, that's not that bad. Well, how tall are you?
5'5.5".
And that's about average for a woman, right? Right in the middle?
Yes. And that's if I had a relationship and I, had the experience of connecting with someone, say in the workplace, and they were shorter than that, and it was just such a connection and they were kind and we had an attraction, I wouldn't say I'm not dating you because you're 5'7", for example. But in the world we're living in where we're swiping and we're judging people based on credentials, yes, height matters. But if I met someone in real life and there was a connection and they were shorter, I wouldn't automatically cut them out just because of height. I would assess the situation differently, if that makes sense.
You would give a guy that's 5'8" or 5'9" a shot in person, is what you're saying.
If there was a connection and if it felt authentic, it might be possible. I wouldn't be that shallow to just disregard them if there was a connection. But judging people from a computer screen based on like a resume, I'm usually Xing the ones under 5'10".
I mean, and that's fine. I mean, most women, I think, would want around 5'10" and above, if I had to guess.
Right. I like around like 6', 5'11" if we're getting
Sure.
really.
Sure.
But
I mean,
I'm saying I feel like 5'10" and up is my zone.
and that's why there's memes out there for women that say, "Is he attractive or is he just 6'3"?
But although I don't know, I haven't really entertained. I know that sounds terrible, that word. I mean, I haven't been in the company. That sounds bad too. I have not hung out with people much taller than 6 foot either. So I don't even know how I would feel about somebody that was 6'3". That might be too tall. Maybe there's a too
Right.
tall for me as well, you know?
It could be. I think with the dating apps, it gives them the option to be more selective.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the ideal world, we could run down the ideal world dude for you. The ideal world dude. How much does he make? How tall is he?
Mm-hmm.
Phil Bradley has another question. What about obesity? Probably not going to be attractive, right?
Mm.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Oh, so are you asking me personally? I'm not attracted to people that are obese, a little bit overweight. would be fine if they were living a healthy lifestyle and they had a couple extra pounds. But obesity to me speaks to the underlying issues, not just how they look. Because to me, from my perspective, obesity is speaks to hidden traumas that are going on. That's my perspective.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? There'd be like underlying stuff that he's suppressing.
I think in the red pearl world, they have the sixes. It's like 6 foot tall, 6 figure income.
Mm.
And then they say six in the pants, and then a few more sixes that I can't remember what.
Right. But I mean, guys are doing the same thing for girls, right?
Are there?
Well, not everybody likes blonde hair, but she have big V's and blonde hair, and does she have a nice smile, and is she some of them like the short girls, like, oh, I like 5'5" and under, and then some want a tall runway model. So I'm saying guys have their preferences too, right?
Yeah, anyone can have preferences, right? I think, me personally, I don't really have preferences. I think like attractive is attractive. And there's some attractive women who are maybe a little bit on the thicker side. And there's some that are more on the slim athletic side.
Hmm.
I mean, some guys would say, oh, like a girl with a big butt. That's never really been a thing for me. I just like attractive is attractive. If they happen to have that, great. But I've never really been that honed in on that idea before. I think
Okay.
I've liked legs. I do like legs, but that also goes to show someone's fitness level. I think
Yes.
if a woman has good legs, she's not going to have good legs and be not fit.
Yes.
It goes to both.
Very
But
true.
with some guys, they're just like a big butt. I mean, that doesn't necessarily have to do anything with fitness, really. It could
Hmm.
just be, just genetically, they have that.
Hmm. Very true. And I was actually shocked. I mean, I think butts are trending now more than ever, big butts. But I was shocked when this butt, everybody loves butts. I'm like, I didn't know men like butts so much. So, or you
Some.
you don't, or feet. I'm so shocked at what is this foot fetish? I don't understand. Some people they just want to see pictures of feet, and I mean, it's nice to have beautiful feet, but I don't understand it.
Well, some women I think are cashing in on that.
Yes.
Women are cashing in on OnlyFans, and those are the ones they hit pay dirt. If they found some dude that wants to pay them whatever just to show pictures of their feet,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not even really showing anything of who they are. They don't have to show their face, it's just their feet.
Exactly.
But what I would say to that is the fool and his money soon parted. That's what I say about the guys with that. But what do you think about that? What are your thoughts on the dudes and OnlyFans girls, etc.?
What do you mean about the feet or in general?
Now, just in general, what do you think about women who do OnlyFans? What do you think about the guys who pay for someone's OnlyFans?
I honestly think it needs to be case by case because as I'm on Instagram, I'm sharing get readies with me, outfit of the day. I'll wear. I mean, sometimes I'm not in lingerie, sometimes I am. So I'm saying I wouldn't want to be judgmental about OnlyFans because I do share attractive pictures as well. So I feel like if you're on OnlyFans and you're an empowered woman and you're sharing it through like an artistic way, then you do your thing. But I guess it could, I mean, I don't go on there and I think there could be a lot more vulgar stuff than that. So I would say that might not be, not something I'm interested in looking at. And are the men married men? Are they living a double life? Are they cheating on their wives or are they single and they enjoy looking at beautiful women? I don't know. Like, I really think it's case by case and I don't like to judge. And to each their own, I think.
Let's make it more personal.
Okay.
Say you're going out with a guy. It's on date number one
Yeah.
or date number two. And you find out he actually talks to a lot of OnlyFans girls somewhere.
Mm.
Does that change your perspective of him?
If we were casually dating and we're just there, we're going for drinks and you just want to have fun, I'd be like, well, that's your thing. And I wasn't planning on marrying you anyway. But if I was trying to find a boyfriend or a future husband and he was that entangled with these OnlyFans girls or any type of online girls, I'd feel insecure, and I would feel like that's not going to stop once we're in a relationship. And I don't want to live a double life where I'm competing with online girls. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
So that would
So,
make you feel insecure more
yes,
so than turned off.
insecure because if he's that maybe addicted, I don't know if addicted is the right word. If he's that addictive and he doesn't plan to stop, you're always going to feel like there's another woman in the relationship.
Interesting. I would have thought it would have been just more of a turnoff as opposed to insecure or triangulated with.
I would feel insecure. Like if I would feel insecure that like now I'm not enough for him, that he has to go online too. That's how I would see it. And then I would feel, yeah, I would just feel like insecure, like I had to compete maybe. And I just lost my train of thought. I had another point to say. Oh, how much is he into this? Is it an addiction? Because we do know that some people have porn addictions. So I have met people that have had porn addictions and they can't function in a normal relationship because this is very deep, but their sexual style is highly stimulated through pornography only. And this might not be, what time is it? It's 9:30. It's okay. So what I'm saying is he that deep into the online world? Because if so, then that's not something I want to get into.
I had to refrain myself from doing my line, but I didn't do it.
You can do it for that
No.
conversation. Oh, well done. Does everybody know what your line is? You have to
They
tell.
do. I'm sure they do because I
Okay.
do that with my friend Kelly too.
Okay.
That I go back, but it's not supposed to be a serious thing. It's just like one
Right.
of those things. But the other part about it, like you were saying, what does it look like when someone has porn addiction, for lack of a better word? Have you seen that in the dating world too? Or how does it even
Yeah.
come up?
Some of them it doesn't even come up. I can just identify it now because I think it's so widespread. And I'm not shaming people for being into that industry. I think I mean, that's the world we live in. But there's a difference between enjoying that industry and being addicted. Same as with food. You can enjoy food and you can be addicted to food. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just feel like they're not attracted or aroused by normal interactions.
Mm,
It needs to be what they're used to in their alone time, if you know what I mean.
sure. And you know what I think of that though too? It's one of those things where the guys that I think I look up to the most, those are things that those guys probably wouldn't be doing. And
Hmm.
I think there's things that weaken us as a man.
Hmm.
And one of those things can be booze. One of those things can be drugs. One of those things can be porn. One of
Hmm.
those things can be, I don't know, being lazy, not hitting the gym. But
Hmm.
all of those things contribute to your power level as a man.
Hmm.
And I think of all the things any man can do, we can work on our power levels.
Hmm.
And our power levels are a combination of things. Sometimes your looks contribute, your physical fitness contributes, your income level, if you're on your mission and purpose, if you have status, how you dress, how you carry yourself, all of that contributes. And I think if a guy's doing that, whether it's with an OnlyFans girl or just even not just scrolling, it's still his time.
Hmm.
I've heard a good expression for men to consider before. They say men should treat their time the way women treat sex. I was, ooh,
Ooh,
interesting.
men should treat their time the way women treat sex. Oh, interesting.
Meaning men should be respectful of their time and be conservative with who they spend their time with
Hmm.
because their time is valuable.
Hmm.
Just like most of the women I would respect, they're going to be a little more conservative with who they would sleep with more than likely. And again, not to judge the people who do whatever, the Bonnie Blues of the world getting with 1,000 people in one day. But that's a good example to show that, yeah, who, what guy would want to take someone like her seriously?
Hmm.
Do you know anyone who would?
No.
And that's the exaggerated point, but it still makes the point that
Right.
there's certainly a level where somewhere, and I did this to my friend the other day too, because she was saying, "Oh yeah, you don't judge OnlyFans girls, etc." And I said, similar to what I said to you before, I said, let's make it personal. What if your daughter did? What would you think then? And I would say, if they think something different of it then, it means they know there's something about it that they don't like. And it's just a matter of articulating what that is. And
Right.
again, people can still do whatever it is they want to do. But in my eyes, it would be for the person who gets with 1,000 people in a day, how could it truly be something you value if just anyone and anyone can get it? Is
Right.
that what something that is a value you're going to do?
Mm,
Probably not. And the 1,000 part, that just is the exaggerated version, but I think it still proves the point.
right.
And that'll probably get me some hate, but okay.
But I do agree with what you're saying, but I just feel there's a fine line with the women. I feel like there's the women who are more like prudish, who barely sleep with their husbands even, and I don't have to, and it's like they deprive them, and then a lot of those husbands are going to the OnlyFans.
Sure.
So I feel like there's two sides. Some women are way over the top, like you said, the Susie Q's or whatever, you Bonnie Blues with 1,000 men. And then there's the women who think that my husband's supposed to love me and I don't have to sleep with him anyway and blah blah blah, but I'm like, a man is a man and that's not going to work. So I feel like both sides are complete extremes and we need to be somewhere in the
Right.
middle.
I mean, a woman doesn't have to do anything, I would say, but
Yes.
then there's going to be something's going to happen more than likely. The guy is going to
Exactly.
do something,
Yeah.
whether it's resort to porn or OnlyFans or something, escorts, cheating, something's probably going to happen. And
Yes.
then what stops it?
Hmm.
Really, the only thing that determines it is the guy's character at that point, what he's willing to do and not do. And that's the other thing I've been thinking about recently is the character. Character is what really prevents people from acting out when feelings change, when things get a little boring. That's what changes things. Like, what are you going to do? Your character determines that.
Hmm. It's true. Because things definitely going to get boring, especially like we spoke of. If you're choosing someone just superficially, that gets old extremely quick.
Sure.
So there has to be that deep level of, like you said, supporting each other's dreams and striving for more and having some kind of connection, or it's going to be old in a month.
Yeah, I mean, looks are
Yes,
only skin deep. The
exactly.
connection is way more important than that because looks
Yes.
do get boring, but it's the energy. It's the
Mm-hmm.
energy and how well you get along together. That's everything.
Mm-hmm. True.
And Phil Bradley has another question for you. Why are women attracted to the so-called bad boys? What's your answer for this?
So I definitely like the bad boys. So he's
You do. Ooh,
I like the bad boys who are also good boys, if that makes sense. I don't want the bad boys who are in jail and all the hardcore bad boys. I like the ones that are good but are like low key bad. Does that make sense?
sure.
So, why are we attracted to them? I think I like the freedom that comes with it, that they don't care, that they don't have much accountability, that they're it's
What do you mean by that?
like they just don't go through life worrying. They're not anxious as much. They're fearless. They're usually dominating the workforce, just leading. I don't know. I just feel like a bad boy is usually a dominant guy, and I like dominant guys.
And I think the reason to me why women like bad boys is several reasons. One, they're usually more confident,
Hmm.
they're usually more fun, they're usually more charismatic, they can
Hmm.
be adventurous. A lot
Yes.
of times they perform better in the workplace,
Hmm.
etc. They know how to let loose.
Hmm.
Now, some of those things, though, can contribute to the reasons why the relationship ends too. Because
Mm,
part of not caring can sometimes be the empathy deficiency.
true.
Oh yeah, they don't care because they just can't care.
Hmm.
But
Yes.
that does look more attractive and does
Yes.
come off as more attractive than say the guy who cares too much too soon. To
Yes.
me, nothing is more unattractive than that.
Yes. And I think that's why I said the bad boys who are also good boys, because I have met plenty of narcissists who have zero empathy, and those are definitely the baddest of the bad. And that is attractive at first, but then the fact that they have no empathy and they can't hold space for you becomes a turn off. So I agree. I don't like that. And I just had like an aha moment. I think the reason I like it so much is because it allows me to be in my feminine energy more so, which is my natural place. So when they're that dominating, more bad boy vibe, I don't have to be in my own masculine energy. If it's a guy who's too feminine or asking me to make the decisions all the time, that's not a place I want to be in.
All right. What do you think about the whole masculine feminine polarity?
So I really feel energy and live by that. So I do definitely agree with that, and feel that like when the man's embodying his masculine, I can be in my feminine, and then that's the best complementary place where we could, find union and be together. I do believe in that and strongly support
I
that.
know I get hate for that now too. Just to even say masculine and feminine gets me in trouble. But I still think it's a real thing. And
Yes.
look no further than gay and lesbian relationships to see it's a thing.
Hmm.
That's what tops and bottoms are.
Hmm.
Like tops are masculine, bottoms are feminine. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if they're two guys or two women, etc. But you see that in lesbian relationships. There's the one that's more masculine, and
Yep.
there's the one that's more feminine. There's
For
nothing
sure.
wrong. There's nothing wrong with it.
No.
It just is.
Right. Because if you had two dominants, you'd be competing with each other all the time and destroying one another, I feel. And maybe some people that's their thing, but it's not my thing. So like you said, even in a lesbian couple, you have one that looks that oh, that's the masculine, this is the feminine one. Like it's just how it goes, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your definition of a good masculine?
A leader, definitely a leader. I like when people can lead and make decisions without me having to tell them. I can't stand it. Like, say you're going on a date. I don't want him asking me 100 questions of where you want to go and are you sure this is okay? And well, do you want me to change this? Can't stand that. So I like it when they're a natural leader. They make decisions. They're confident in their decisions. Um, yeah, basically that's at the forefront. That's my definition of a strong masculine: making decisions, leading, and owning it.
Yeah, I like that. And I think masculine, I've read like David Dita's book, The Way of the Superior Man. And this book gets some hate now too. But ultimately, he says the masculine has their mission and purpose first, and they put it over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he had said, and he uses an example in a book of a man and a woman, where the man's a soldier. He's supposed to go off to war because that's part of his purpose and mission. And the woman doesn't want him to go. She's crying, don't go to war, you might die. And the man says, no, I gotta go. And he does. But he says, let's reverse it and say, maybe the guy listens. Yeah, you're right, hon. I'm not going to go to war. I'm not going to do my mission, whatever it is. And I'm going to try to make you happy now.
Mm-hmm.
She said the woman will eventually look down on that and then
Yes.
she won't respect him as much. But it's to emphasize the point masculine about mission and purpose. And this is where people come at me and say, well, you mean to tell me with the strong boss woman that is going to do that is that's more of a masculine thing? They'll say, why does it have to be masculine? I'd say, well, I do still think it's masculine. I do think it's a masculine thing.
Yep.
And you see the women who are doing the boss babe things, like the ones at the top, they mostly are more masculine women. Like that
Yep.
is just, it is what it is. It doesn't mean they're not attractive. It doesn't mean they can't still be beautiful, but that is more of a masculine essence.
For
And
sure.
there's just something about that essence that it just is. Now, a
Mm-hmm.
feminine essence is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You have more of a feminine essence. I don't
Yep.
even think you could do like the masculine thing. So it just isn't you, which is
Yes.
great. But for some people, the masculine to me, what's a good masculine to me? It's like you said, being decisive, making
Mm-hmm.
decisions, trying to anticipate the needs of the people around you, taking
Mm-hmm.
full responsibility for all of your decisions and for the people you care about as well, doing your mission and purpose, whatever that is. What else would it be? Trying to work on like continuing to learn, continuing to grow, working on your physical health, your intellect, your mental health. All of that contributes to me to a masculine.
Yes.
Feminine, on the other side, it's like more about relationships, community,
Hmm.
uh, a family, connection. And some people act like it's a smear to say that, but I don't think it's a smear.
No,
I just think it is. It's just how it is.
it is. It is how it is. It's energy. It's
Right.
not a smear at all.
But certain people, they consider it a smear and they'll say no, 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 or they'll say any guy that's not like that, he's just toxically masculine, or they try to make it so that everything's gender neutral. They call it
Mhm.
androgynous when you're
Yeah.
not masculine or feminine. But you know what happens then? There's no polarity.
Right.
And in order for there to be sexual attraction, there has to be some sort of polarity.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm definitely not about the neutral, and I agree there has to be polarity.
But these are the things that people are fighting and pushing back against for whatever reason. I'm not even sure why they dislike it so much, but it's part of the ideology they believe, I think. And I think for some of the women who don't like it, it speaks to the wound. I think there's a lot of wounded feminine that,
Hmm.
rightfully so, they've been hurt. True. They've been hurt, and I think they're the ones that don't like it the most. And these are the ones that I got in a disagreement with someone the other day about this, where it was about the concept of when I had said a man who wants to protect and provide for a woman, someone called it a red flag. And I had said something along the lines of, like, that's how you know, like, a woman lacks trust in a man. And
Hmm.
what they came at me with was, rightfully so, they don't trust men. And I would say, well, in the beginning, sure. But I said, it's more important for us to trust ourselves.
Hmm. Yes.
And then this person said, well, you're a man, so you shouldn't be saying anything about what a woman shouldn't be trusting and not trusting. And I
Mm.
said, but still, it's about when we're in a good place with ourselves, we're not going to smear the entire gender. And men do the same thing to women. The
Right.
guys that have been hurt, they're the ones that go down the red pill MGTOW lane, and they're the ones that call women the 304s and tell them that they're going to divorce, grape you, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But is it possible that can happen? Sure. Just like it's possible that some dude will be narcissistic and push you through the stages of abuse. It's possible. But
Right.
when you trust yourself and your judgment, you trust that you're going to make good decisions and you're
Right.
not going to smear the entire gender like that. But that's how you know someone's still wounded. They're smearing the entire gender.
Exactly. And I agree with you. It's coming from the place that they've been hurt, and like you said, now they're smearing the whole gender, and it's so hard for them to trust again, so they just stay stuck in that pain instead of moving through it and realizing not everybody is going to hurt you.
Right.
But I mean, the society and the generation that we're living in now, so many people are living in that distrust and being wounded, and everybody's hurt. So it's like a tough place.
And I think sometimes what I'm about to say can be used in a toxic way, but what we focus on does expand. When all you focus on is the toxic women or the toxic men,
Hmm.
that's all you're going to see. You're
Hmm.
going to see all of those worst case scenarios.
Hmm.
And I don't find it surprising when the hardcore MGTOW or red pill dudes or the hardcore feminists, they keep on finding ways to reaffirm what they believe. You see that woman? She left her great man. She was a 304. She cheated on him with Chad or Tyrone. Right? That's what they do. And then the radical feminists women be like, see, all those men are toxic patriarchal oppressors.
Hmm.
And you see what that guy did? He SA'd this woman. You see what this guy did? He did that, and you see it over and over. They talk about the same things.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, sure, it happens, but where's the perspective?
Hmm.
Where's the perspective? Because not everyone's doing that.
Hmm.
And some men think there really are no good women. And I think some women think there really are no good men. But where do you fall in that thing?
Um, so I've seen. a whole wide range of men, and I have been hurt. But I just cannot allow myself to go through the rest of my life living in that bitter place, even though I've experienced the wounding, because I don't want to live in a world where you believe that everybody's so bad. So I'm choosing to keep my heart open but guarded, even though I've been wounded. Because, like I said, who wants to live in a bitter world, believing that all there is what these people are saying? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm still hopeful, and there are good people out there. And like you said, what we believe, we receive. So I still believe that there's good people out there.
I never heard that one before, actually. What we believe we receive?
Yeah. Our ask,
Ah,
believe, receive, ask, believe, receive. So if you, like you said, if we want an excuse bad enough or we want to be validated in our beliefs, we're going to find the examples, like you just said.
right.
But if you want to be hopeful and believe in good things, you will find that too. It's a matter of time. So
Sure.
that's where I'm at.
And I
But
think, go
sorry,
on.
go. I was gonna say, but that doesn't mean that I have learned that it's like you said, we have to assess our role we're playing in it. So a lot of the time we get wounded because we've allowed it to happen. So I feel like we need to maybe approach these people differently. So when those people, those toxic men or something come at you, you need to be able to spot it and not to hand over your power.
Right.
And then to be alert for the good ones that do come around.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think some of those things, I think what happens is they can be used toxically. I could see ways where the uh, you believe what you receive, or was it the other way around? You
Uh,
receive what you believe. I said it. I
yes.
said it wrong. But yeah, that could be used in a toxic way, but it doesn't always mean it's not a good thing to strive for.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things are true at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I could see where people could use that to invalidate someone or gaslight them, even. But also, that's kind of something that I think would be a good thing to believe. It's a good thing to believe that because what would be the downfalls of believing that?
You're either right or you're wrong. There's only, have faith or fear. There's only two ways. You either, believe, like Einstein. My favorite quote, something along the lines of, you can believe that everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. That's Albert
Right.
Einstein. And I'm like, it's true. So you either go through life jaded or you go through life hopeful. So I'm
Yeah,
choosing, why would you want to live your life bitter?
and I agree. And I think people struggle with the nuance of it because, sure, there's going to be terrible things that happen. Sure, there can always be bad things. Absolutely. But I still think it's good to strive for some of those things. And that really is the dividing line. There are some people that can't see that. They think, well, if it's not always true, I have to believe the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to myself, is that really helpful? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
And some of it also is, it's not even about what people are doing, I think. It's more about the people that you really respect or would look up to, they wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something to pay attention to as well. And that falls back in line with the confidence thing. It's okay, what you did there isn't really terrible, but someone who truly is confident probably wouldn't do that.
Right.
Also, Phil Bradley has another question. Does attraction happen in the first few moments?
So I believe so, but I also do believe that after say being on a first date, sometimes you might initially see them and be like, "Oh, I'm not attractive," but that would be all physical. But then once you've spent an evening with someone, when you observe their mannerisms and all those things like their confidence and are they a leader, all those things, you might end up leaving that date attracted to them, I would say. But I feel like if you don't feel it by the end of like a first date, I feel like maybe it's not in the cards for you. Like, I don't feel like I wouldn't want to, me personally, I wouldn't want to go on many, many dates hoping for an attraction to come. I feel like it's either instant, which is my favorite kind, or it's maybe something that required a couple hours together to know them a little bit. But after that, I feel like I know enough.
what they say is a woman can tell within the first 10 seconds whether she won't sleep with a guy or not. But
Yep.
it's more, okay, this guy has a shot. He can have a shot, but she'll know the ones that have no shot
Yes,
instantly.
that's so true. So true.
So instantly she'll know that. But then she'll say the next category is, well, that's a shot. Let's see if he says something stupid. Let's see if he ruins it. Right.
Yes, let's see if he ruins it. And you're hoping, you're like, please don't disgust me. Please don't do anything
Yeah.
to disgust me. Yes.
Here's a good one for you, too. When you're really attracted to a dude, what is your thought process? Let us inside the mind of a woman here when she's really into a guy. What does she think about texting frequency? What does she think about texting first? Does she want guys to text first? Does she prefer to reach out herself first? Or what does that look like for you?
So I want them to. So do we know each other already? Have we gone on a date, or is this like what's the situation?
Mm, how about, well, let's go to the most common circumstance. The most common circumstance is now, because I have many circumstances, right? I meet people because of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really even do dating apps anymore, but most people are meeting people on dating apps.
Mm-hmm.
You meet someone on a dating app and you match. And then you have, I guess, a little bit of banter. Guys are mostly going to be the initiators here. But what's the process from there?
So I feel like I'm definitely not asking them out. If I have to, like, that to me is a turn off. Maybe not all women, but I don't want to have to ask you out. So I like, again, leader, that they can be confident enough either to ask for your number or to ask you out, to feel confident and not inferior. Like, say they do think you're more attractive than them. If they're still owning it and leading and feeling confident to ask you out, then that's the turn on. And then I feel like if they can hold a conversation again, and like I said earlier, not go right to the sexual side of it. Like, I feel like you need to be able to have some kind of mature conversation, ask a little bit about your life. And I have kids and I have a history. So I need to be able to mention those heavy details and see how they respond to that.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not always, that's maybe not ideal for everybody. That's someone who already has kids, if they don't, or even if they do. So I like to see how they respond to that and get the vibe off of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, especially for where you are with that. But then how about they ask you out
Mm-hmm.
and then you go on a date and then you hit it off on the date? What's going through your head then?
So, if you hit it off on the date, so say if you hit it off on the date, I would like them to text me first. So say the next day, or if they didn't, I'm not the kind of person that wants to be like, I don't want to wait. So if they haven't texted me the next day and I do like them, I'm going to get a little panicky. I'm not going to show them I'm panicky, but I don't like that, because then I'm like, I guess I did something wrong. Oh my God, what did I do? So even though I am confident, when they don't text you the next day, you start to self-reflect and think that you must have done something. So I don't like it when the guys have this 3-day rule or whatever that thing is. Like, I feel you should text her the next day if you had a nice time. But then don't also become obsessive and try to be texting her like 10 times a day, every single day, because that's coming on too strong as well.
And I think, looking back in my own life, I think some of the ones that I've had the best connections with, it felt the least like a dating back and forth. It was more, we were friends and it just, things were natural
Mm-hmm.
because of that.
Yes.
And it's the rare combo to be friends, but then also still to have the attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had that. But a lot of times it's one or the other. A lot of times it's, well, you're friends because you're not into them, or you're super into them and you're trying to get somewhere, but then there's nothing. Because that's the thing with the dating dynamic, though. It's very artificial. You're not meeting them in person. You're meeting them through the app and you're trying to make some sort of connection out of it. But it's difficult. It's difficult before you meet them. I mean, Phone call is at least a little bit. You can hear their voice. It's better than just words on a screen,
Hmm.
but it's still tough. It's still tough getting to that connection point.
For sure. And then you want, like, I agree. Once you meet them, it's a whole different. Then you could really feel the energy. You could see how they act in public, how you feel in their company. So I do feel like you need to get to that meeting point. But like you said, it's just the nature of the game, that how it has to go with the texting and then the matching. It's just so artificial and uncomfortable. But that's just the world we're living in, I guess.
Yeah. And do you see more guys be the avoidant type with you, or do you see them be more anxious? What do you see?
I feel like I'll meet the ones I'm meeting, or not even meeting but talking to, I feel are, I'm trying to think because it's hard to tell, because I don't, a lot of them is just through text. I think it's the avoidant. I think, is that what you said? Anxious or avoidant?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot are avoidant, even in public. I feel like a lot of people won't approach me. I don't know if I come off standoffish or if I'm intimidating. So I feel it's the avoidant, and like, even if they like me, I'm not going to ever know if they do. Like, they're not approaching me. But then I might,
So
sorry.
guys don't approach you in public anymore.
Some of them do. I mean, I'm very much in my bubble on my social media, at the gym. I'm not partying out in bars where, you know, you have these interactions. So it's really all about the online world. But I just feel like, I don't know if guys are just not approaching women or if I'm intimidating, but I'm not, it's not, or they don't know I'm single. So I feel like guys are not just like coming up to me and asking me out in public.
Well, how about this? When you're at the gym, do you wear headphones at the gym?
Yes. And I don't look at anybody. That's
And
probably why.
that would be a big reason, I think, why people aren't going to talk to you. Do you have
True.
the little earbuds or do you have the ear muffs?
The earmuffs, the beats, the big, like do not approach me.
That's exactly what they communicate to people. Do not talk to me. Do not look at
Yes.
me. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. That's what that is.
It's it's
So
true, and I don't want them to talk to me when I'm in my workout zone. So I'm pretty sure I'm giving off those hardcore vibes anyway.
and it's a shame because the gym is a place where there's all sorts of people that are staying in shape, hopefully, right? They have a common interest with you.
Hmm.
But in my experience, a lot of women don't even want to be looked at the gym, but not always. You can't generalize it completely because
Right.
you never know. But almost everyone has headphones on at the gym now,
Yes, it's true.
and you have to interrupt them to even begin the conversation.
Yes. I do, though, admire a few. One or two have like tapped me to say, "Oh, good job. I see you here every day. Like, you're doing good." And we're friends. We're friends now. And I'm like, I do appreciate those people who had the confidence to do that. But I wouldn't want the anxious one who is like trying to strike up this conversation hardcore when I'm in the middle of a workout. So it's a fine line.
And that is the thing too, right? Where you got to have the social calibration to know what is appropriate in the setting.
Yes.
You can do maybe a little bit, a very little bit, but there has to be either on the way in or on the way out
Yeah.
conversation as
Hmm.
opposed to in that time.
Exactly.
But also to note, and this is another example I would say to guys if I'm trying to help them through it, I would say, remember this. If Leonardo DiCaprio or some other dude comes up to them in the gym, they're going to talk to him no matter what they're doing. So,
Yes.
so the point is, if they're attracted enough, they'll make exceptions.
Yes.
If they're a big if, and this is where a man has to know his value and has to have a realistic sense of his value too, or a realistic sense of what someone thinks of him.
Hmm.
If he can sense this woman is looking at him in a certain way and he can tell this woman likes me a little bit, I should try.
Yeah.
But you got to know that. You got to know what that looks like. You got to know the signs of that. And if you don't see it, then that's probably not the one you're going to take that big leap with. You might still try on the way out if you're walking out at the same time or coming in at the same time. But you got to be really honest with yourself and you got to be socially calibrated.
Exactly. And I think most women, maybe I could be totally wrong, but me, if a man is socially calibrated and respectful and just said like, "Hey, how are you? I notice you're in here every day, and I don't know, would you like to get coffee one day or something?" But they said it totally respectful with boundaries. I feel like we respect that. And even if we said, "Oh, no, thank you, I'm really not interested," if they're like, "Okay, well, nice to meet you, have a good workout," it's like that was so respectful. And like, I give it to him that he had the confidence to do that. So I feel like don't be so afraid of rejection, because we're not looking at least I'm not going to look at you like you're a fool. I'm like, I'm admiring you that you had the guts to do that.
Right. And that's the thing I think for guys to realize too. Most women are going to have a little bit of a shield up,
Hmm.
and you might have to break through that initially
Hmm.
sometimes. But also, you can tell pretty quickly too if a woman wants zero parts of it. Right?
Yes.
They're going to be one way, and that's a little different than the one who just has a little bit of a shield up. That's a
Hmm.
little different. And then, but the one who has a little shield up, once she finds out you're not some weirdo, then she might be more open to you, and you can figure
Exactly.
it out from there. But it's these distinctions that's what makes someone socially calibrated. They're able to sense it. But
Yes.
most women, I can see it right away where it's, oh, they want no part of this. They got the Eskimo hat on. They're hiding. They have this barbed wire around them. It's like, yeah, don't
Exactly.
talk to this girl.
Exactly. Exactly.
But for some people, they don't get it. They don't. It's harder for them to pick up on it sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be aware of, like, be in tune to those little cues, like watch for them, because you
Right.
can tell.
Now, another question: what is a burning desire like for you when you really are into somebody? What kinds of guys would you have that for?
Which kinds of guys would I have that for?
Or you could say, what does it feel like? What is it for you?
I think it's just like I feel like a sense of like excitement, kind of like a little high, like, ooh, like you feel like a kid again. You feel in a good mood, and you just like hope that they're going to talk to you, or if you already are talking to them, you look forward to them reaching out. Just like, I would say probably the same as a man's feeling. It's kind of like exhilarating excitement.
I would say when you look at a woman, occasionally the energy can be electric between two people. And it's something that you can't fake it.
Hmm.
And it's something that it's pretty cool when it happens. I remember it happened to me 6 months ago at some point, and it's so noticeable when it happens. But
Yes.
you lock eyes with someone, and then all of a sudden, the energy all around just feels
Oh,
electric,
yeah, I
and you can
feel
see it.
you get like, I get like tingly goosebumps because it's all to do with energy, so you could feel it. Even to the point of, if you I've been able to tell, I'm like, okay, well, when you kiss, if you have a first kiss with someone, you're gonna feel it, like you're gonna feel that electric feeling, like in the movie Hotel Transylvania. I don't know if you watch kids movies. She's like, we the zing. So when you kiss, you're going to feel the zing of energy, or you're going to feel it's flat and it's just lifeless. So I feel like you have to listen to those zings and those electric feelings, because they're speaking in energy.
And that's basically genuine desire, is what that
Exactly.
is. And
Exactly.
it just can't be faked. That's not transactional per se.
Right.
It's that feeling that's either there or it's not there.
Hmm. And I think too often, and I've done this myself, too often in the society, we're doing our checklists. So she's going to be a good mother. She can cook. He has a good job. He's comes from a good family, and that's all transactional. But you have no genuine electrifying connection, and that stuff is going to fade, and you're going to go through just the motions.
Right. And in this day and age, people don't need people anymore. So that's what people look for now. They
Hmm.
don't need just the a guy with a paycheck, the guy that's going to be able to be a father, provider, etc. The bar is much higher now.
Hmm.
The bar is much higher. And I think what we're noticing is there's a lot of guys that don't feel they can measure up. There's a lot of guys that are just tapping out of it because they don't think they can compete. And honestly, I don't even know what to tell them because sometimes they're right. It's like
Right.
sometimes they are in a tough spot and there's just so many things going against them. I'm very hesitant to say something's impossible, but it's certainly going to be difficult.
For
And
sure.
with the way the dating market is right now, it's tough. And for how it is, there's going to be a lot of guys who fail. That's always how it's been. It's always been that way in humans history. I just
Right.
think it's more so now. It's more so now because of online.
For sure. And like you said, back in the day, women would, pick a man because she needed the paycheck and she needed the stability. Now, the boss babes, like you were saying, they don't need that. So now, like you said, the bar is so much higher. So for sure, it's tough. But I feel the best thing is to just practice self care and become the best version of yourself is your only hope to, to meet somebody.
I mean, that's all anyone can do. You can
Exactly.
call that your power level, you can call that your capacity, whatever it is, but that's all you can do as a woman or a man. You work
Mm,
on that and you let the cards fall as they may.
exactly.
But let's face it also, a lot of attractiveness is not something that you even get to choose because you don't choose your face. You don't choose your parents. You don't choose how tall you are. You don't choose all these things that really matter. And I think part of wisdom is understanding that. It's understanding that a lot of what makes someone attractive is out of their control. But there are some things of it in our control. We can try to work on our diets, we can try to work on our exercise routine, etc. But unless you're going to go out there and do some sort of plastic surgery, your face is your face.
Right. And then there are those people who are doing all of that, even men, women. So it's like sometimes, you're out of that league because there's so many perfect people.
Right. Have you ever heard the term shit test?
Shit test? No.
Never?
Enlighten me. I've never heard it.
Oh, you Canadians, I'll tell you.
I know.
So a shit test is a subconsciously guided female examination of a man's grace under pressure to assess his strength.
Wow. Whoa. I like it.
Well, they say women do that because for guys, when they're in the dating world, a lot of times a woman may give a shit test. And an example of a shit test would be maybe not replying right away, or maybe being a little bit combative or challenging the guy, or being a little bitchy or something, just to see how he acts.
Yes.
And it's to do that. And so what I tell guys is when you remember this lens, it's and a subconscious, which some men have said to me, or and women too. They'll say, "Oh, that's misogynistic to say." And I say, I don't think so. I think it's just smart. It's a way for women that's ingrained in them to try to figure out who are going to be the best bets for reproduction. Who are the guys that are going to help her get the strongest offspring? It's
Mm-hmm.
something that's ingrained. I don't see that's a problem. I think it's smart. It's smart for women to have these ways to figure this out.
For sure.
Ingenious, really. And it's remember a subconsciously guided female examination of a man's grace under pressure to assess his strength.
I love it. I think I've done that and I just didn't know it was called that. So now I have a label for it.
Most women
Um,
have done it, almost, if not all.
right. And you know what I've learned? Because I'd say I'm, as much as I'm super feminine, I don't want to use the word powerful. That sounds conceited, but like I'm a lot, just say. And I've often felt I have been too much for many people. And now I'm owning that, like that new song, if you think I'm too much, then go find less. So I'm like, I am embodying and owning the too much. I think a lot of women are. And those men that can't handle the too much are not cutting it because we don't want to be, we want to be feminine and safe in that space, but we want to be allowed to be too much sometimes, if you get
What
it.
do you mean by too much? What's an
Okay.
example of you being too much? I
So
think I know what you mean, but I want to hear an example.
right. So for me, too much would be if I'm moody, not bitchy and not disrespectful, because I don't think you should ever treat your partner like that. But just if I'm off, if I'm a little tired, if I'm moody, and I'm just gonna be, if I need my solitude or if I'm not super talkative one day, then I shouldn't have to be required to be on point at all times. So if I'm just checked out one day, then I need you to get that. Like you're not going to be insulted by that. So that's one aspect. And then another aspect would be if I don't agree with you, I'm not argumentative or opinionated, but I am set in what I believe. So if I don't agree with you, I don't want you to start this big, this big battle of wits, and we have to go head to head. Like you do you, I do me. You know what I'm saying? So I have my beliefs. I don't want to feel like I'm too much for not agreeing with you. Just basically let me be my own person. Don't expect me to be on point at all times, if you get it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
I think guys that have a certain power level to them, it doesn't happen. It just those kinds of things, they don't turn into anything. You could be not on point, as you say, and it just doesn't blow up. But when someone has a lower power level, maybe that does blow up. And maybe the guy gets anxious about it or
Mhm.
insecure about it. And then those are the things, then the molehill has turned into a mountain at
Right.
that point.
So I think that's it. I think I'm speaking from my experience, that that's always been my experience. So I'm excited to find the guy who, like you said, someone who's powerful, that those things don't bother him. That is so freeing to me to hear that. Um, yeah, so that's my goal. And realizing that I allowed myself to dim my own light and not be too much to please other people in the past, and I'm not doing it anymore. So it's like
Hmm.
my role in it as well.
And what's an example of you doing that? How have you dimmed your light?
Um, so basically, in being with people that are very argumentative or opinionated or whatever title we want to give them, I would just silence my own voice to end that debate, let's call it. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who is very difficult, who didn't make space for your opinion. So you would just learn that you either leave this relationship, which I didn't, or you learn to silence your own truth just to get them to stop ranting. That's been my experience.
What was the topic?
Pretty much anything. Pretty much anything that they were, anything that I disagreed with. And I used to disagree often because I wasn't familiar with somebody who was so argumentative. And then I quickly caught on to this pattern. And I'm like, I don't want to be drained every day and battle with you. I could care less about your opinion. So I just like, oh, I'll just stop engaging. But then I realized that I was losing myself. You can't just continue to disengage with someone you're in a relationship with. You know what I mean?
And is this a guy you dated seriously or just a casual thing?
That was a long-term relationship.
Oh, okay. And that sounds like it was a headache.
So it sounds like at the time I didn't know it was a headache. I just thought this was normal because I didn't have many relationships. And then when I realized this is not normal, that's when I realized how much of a headache it was.
Well, I think disagreements are one thing. It just depends on how the disagreements are handled.
Exactly. And that's the thing. There was no space for the reciprocity and for the two opinions to find, their own place. It was, this is what I believe, you're wrong. And then the toxic behavior, the gaslighting, the blame shifting, all the stuff you speak of.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, and you see that that's online everywhere now, whether it's the political world or the dating world, the gendered world. You see that a lot. And that's why people gravitate to the people that already agree with them
Mm-hmm.
and they're in that little echo chamber. I call it nuance deficiency disorder.
Oh,
There's a lot of people with nuance deficiency disorder.
oh, that's true. And I feel like exactly that. Those people with that who want to, find the to blame shift, they need, I'm sure you know this term, they need their flying monkeys and they need their enablers or they won't be able to continue with their narratives.
Right? They don't. And that's what social media has allowed for people to go to the silos of only people that agree with them, and then they can become more and more extreme in their beliefs because they'll jump down the throat of anyone that comes in there and tries to disagree, and people just will stop. They'll stop doing it
Oh yeah.
because they don't want the pushback or whatever. But you see all these groups that they're becoming more and more extreme in what they believe because they're echo chambers. They
Mhm.
call it gaslighting. Have I told you about that term?
Oh, no, I think you did, but that's such a good one. Oh my God. Yes, lighting.
And there's a guy version of that too. There's the guy version of gaslighting, women version of gaslighting, and it's basically just a way to say the echo chamber, and they'll try to validate you for things that might be a little bit delusional,
Mm,
which isn't always the case, right? Not all Yas Queen or Yas King is wrong, but it can be. It can
yeah,
certainly be wrong.
for
And
sure.
that's where people's nuanced deficiency disorder would come in. And they'd say, no, but Yas Queen's always good. Like, no, not always.
Nope.
Not always. But they struggle with that. And then to actually come up with an example, they'd probably get really mad if you came up with an example.
Yes. They get really mad when you have an example and oh, so true. So
Well,
true.
so much of a debate is getting people to, or even a discussion, is getting people to be specific about things. They say the difference between an argument and a debate, or an argument and a discussion. Do you know what it is?
What?
An argument is to find out who is right, and a discussion is to find out what is right.
Wow. Very true.
But most people have arguments because it's not really about the topic at hand and figuring out what's right. It's more about how do I get this person to admit they lost or onto my side.
Yes.
That's what you see.
Yes. That's what I've experienced. It's exactly that. In a healthy relationship, you wouldn't care who is right or who is wrong. You would like to find the common goal or how can we get through this. But in those talk with those toxic people, they just want to destroy you as long as you're going to, just to win the battle. And it's like, aren't you trying to win the relationship, not the argument? Like, it doesn't make
Right.
sense.
And that's how you know you're not on the same team as someone when everything's a battle, everything's you versus them instead of you two together trying to do something.
Right.
But so often that's what happens. And it happens because a lot of the guys, like the bad boy dudes that women are attracted to, they're often very disagreeable and
Yes.
they're often very competitive. And those are the things that can make those relationships go off the rails down the line.
Hmm.
But for everyone's sake, but those are also the guys that get their genes passed down into the future generations because they're also the guys that reproduce first too. And
Right.
then it just is what it is. And that's why they say that the human species is one long mating experiment run by women.
Wow. So true.
But it's not completely true because this is where the nuanced deficiency disorder would come in with people. It would say it is mostly true today, but there was such a thing as arranged marriages before, so that wasn't a choice.
All right.
But now in America, it is more true.
Yes.
It is more true to say it's a mating experiment, a human experiment run by women,
Oh, for sure.
because every man that reproduces now is chosen in some way, in some form, by the woman.
Hmm.
Especially now, since there's in a pro-choice era, there
Mm,
is no, there is no, they can do what they want now. Like women can do what they want. So the kinds of people there are, those are the men that women have selected.
wow. Such a crazy world.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like it.
Yeah,
It's like sociology, it's psychology, it's I've always liked the dating dynamics. It's interesting to me.
it is. It's fascinating.
But for some people, it goes into toxic spheres pretty quickly,
Hmm.
and it's very difficult. And even just my stuff's moderate. I think the stuff I talk about with masculine and feminine and polarity and shit test stuff, that's not extreme. But to some people it is extreme.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so they're going to look at that and they'll say, "Oh my God, Jared's out of control. He said women shit test. He said there's masculine and feminine polarity and
Right.
whatever else I've said."
Right. I don't see what's so hard to believe about that. I'm with you.
Well, when you're online and you create content like me, you begin to anticipate the negative reactions you'll get. And I already know. I know depending on the platform, you're going to get different negative reactions about different things. Sometimes I'm still surprised when I heard about it's a red flag for a man to say he wants to protect, and provide for a woman. That surprised me.
Right.
And I thought about it and I said, well, I could see where some abusive guys might say that sometimes, but definitely not all the time. So much so that I would say now it's a red flag. I don't think so.
I feel like people are saying everything's a red flag these days if they don't agree with it.
And I would say it's more important for all of us to recognize things that could be perceived as a red flag by others.
Good one.
And then work on those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all we have control over anyway. It's more important to be the right person than to find the right person.
Yes, for sure. You're never going to find the right person if you're not working on yourself and being the right person, like you just said.
Correct. And that's where it turns into you're going to receive what you believe.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You have to become what you want in your life. You're attracting it. You can't attract something into your life that you're not. Like, that's just not how it works.
And this should be the last part too, because what you just said is something I've been hearing women say. Women are becoming the men that they want. I've heard some women say this. Oh. What do you think about that?
I don't feel like it ever become the man that I want, because I don't want to have to do it all on my own. I don't care if that sounds old fashioned. I like the idea. Like you said, I like what you said about what is it? Men want to take care of a woman. I like that. I feel the woman is powerful in her own way and she's independent, but I would be lying if I said I didn't want a man that I could lean on through challenging times or at the end of the day. So I don't want to become the man in my own life, but I definitely want to be able to be self-sufficient without a man, so I'm not desperate to find a man, if that makes sense.
I think that's a good way to put it. I do see some women, they do become more, and some of it's because in the working world, it is more of a masculine world. The profit motive world, it takes more masculine qualities. And some people would get mad at even people saying it's masculine qualities. But to me, it is. Those kinds of dominant, assertive type things are more masculine. And that's not to say people who are feminine can't be assertive, but it also comes off a little different too. I think masculine assertiveness is a little bit different than feminine assertiveness. For sure. There's nuance involved in it. Right. But people don't like the nuance in it. They think, no, it's just assertiveness is not a gendered quality. People get mad when you gender traits.
Right. But masculine energy and feminine energy are in both men and women. Men have the feminine energy, women have. So you're not even being gender specific. It's just that when a woman is a leader or a CEO or dominating the workforce, she has to embody more of her masculine energy. It's just how it goes.
And it's similar to a woman who's a single mother. She has to do it on her own.
Yes.
There is no dude there, and she has to embody the father role and the mother role.
Exactly. And that, from my experience in being in relationships with men who weren't leaders, which would be the masculine energy, I had to step more into it. And I'm very feminine, so that was very unnatural for me. And I did not like my own energy in that space. So that's why it's important for me now that I would like to find a man who is in his masculine containment, as you call it, because I don't want to be in my masculine containment. You know what I'm saying?
And there are symptoms of women who are not being positively masculine contained. And the symptoms would be them probably being much more combative, not feeling safe, being more bitter and wounded. Those are the symptoms to me of a woman that isn't in a safe place. And the counter argument is you can give it to yourself. And I would say no, I don't think you can actually. I think there are certain things you can't give yourself. And that's something that's the other thing I had said too. I was talking about something where the beauty of finding a relationship Oh, that's what it was. I was saying how women who are loved right can be younger, can appear like they keep their youth. And the counter argument I was getting was, but a woman can do that for herself. And I said, kind of.
Mm,
Kind of. I said, yeah, they can take care of themselves. They can go to the gym, eat right, sleep well, etc. But there's still something that they can't give themselves. There's just something
sure.
about a relationship with somebody that you can't give yourself. And they were really having a hard time with that because
Mm,
it meant they can't do it all on their own. It meant that there's something that you can't get while single that you can get in a loving relationship. And they're so into this happy and single thing, which I admit that is an important thing. But I think it's also okay to admit there's something beautiful and positive about a relationship that you just can't get on your own. And I don't think that's such a bad thing to say.
right. I don't either. I think it just exposes the fear and the reality that they might think that, am I going to be alone forever? And that's a horrifying thought. So they stay in the, I don't need a man or I don't need a woman or whatever side, Because, like you said, the dating world is so challenging that they don't even want to entertain the fact that they do need a partner because then what if I never get one? That would be too hard
Right.
to accept.
And that's the thing, that word need, I already know people would have a problem with the word need
Hmm.
because you can really benefit from something. It doesn't necessarily mean you need it. You can still survive. You can still live and live a fairly fulfilled life single.
Hmm.
I think there's just another level to it if you get someone that you're really compatible with and you're a good teammate with. And I don't think there's a problem in saying that. And I'm saying this as a single person.
Right,
I'm single. Like,
right,
I don't have a problem saying that there's something beautiful and special about a great connection. To
right,
me, it's clear. And that's why I was surprised that it was women that were saying,
right,
no, you can give it to yourself. Like,
right.
no, I
I,
don't think so.
I think it's just such a fine line because, like you said, they're coming from a wounded place and bad experiences. And I've been there. So the idea to have to go back into another relationship like that, they would rather remain single than ever go there again. And I'm with them on that. And it is
That's
better to
true.
be single, right? So it is better to be single and self sufficient than go into a toxic relationship just to say you have a partner. But that's where we have to have that believe and receive mentality that let's hope that we could find something that's not toxic and, you know, be vulnerable enough to experience that if that presented itself.
I think the other part of it is they don't want to think something's wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they think, oh no, if I'm missing out on this, it means something's wrong with me. And
Right.
what I'm going to do instead is act like it's not even a thing.
Yeah.
So they have to think of it that way just to be more at peace with themselves.
And
But
yeah, and they could be pushing good men away because they're putting everyone in the same box. And that would be a tough realization too, that they've maybe pushed some good ones away. Because I have a friend who has admitted to that, pushing good men
oh,
away because she's stuck in the bad experience still. And I'm like, you need to move that trauma out of your body because you're pushing good men away now.
what did that look like for her?
Um, just being so hyper independent, set in her ways, not wanting to compromise, maybe because she has been single for so long. Um, when you've been single for so long, I would say you really get stuck in that comfort zone of not compromising whatsoever. So that's where I think you need to embody that vulnerability a little bit again and get in touch with that because we guard ourselves and close off your hearts completely, but you're never going to find someone if you stay in that place.
And that's the thing where those boundaries can be walls at some
Yeah,
point. And
exactly.
then you don't know how to work as a team with someone. You become rigid and uncompromising. It's
Hmm.
a part of it that doesn't get talked about as much because it's more of a stage 2 or 3 of healing thing.
Hmm.
The first step is to be good on your own,
Right.
right? Be good and fairly autonomous and emotionally independent on your own. Down the line, though, once you've done that, then, because at first it's more challenging to be single, it's
Hmm.
more scary to be single than it is to be in a relationship. But then there comes a point where it flips, and all of a
Yes.
sudden you're more comfortable single now because that's what you're used to. And then
Yes.
it'd be more scary to actually get into a relationship. And people don't talk about that part of it as much. The parts of it of, okay, how do I let somebody in without losing myself? How do I let somebody in without having it become enmeshed?
Yeah.
Or how do I maintain my boundaries, etc.?
Yes. And that's like the journey that I'm on. Come to know exactly who you are as an individual so that when you do let someone in, you're not changing yourself or losing all that work you did just to have a relationship. You're so secure in your own foundation that person's going to compliment you, but not change you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a big thing. It takes two mature people to get to that point.
Yes.
Now, here's the other part. Do you think it's possible to have a high level of attraction with somebody and to have, does that happen in non-toxic scenarios? Because I
Mm,
think for a lot of people it just doesn't. I think that's the price people pay sometimes. And you see that with freaking wealthy women. Look at Rihanna. Rihanna was getting with all sorts of hooligans, and she's a woman that could get with whoever she wants, really. But when she can get with anyone she wants, that's what she was choosing. So it makes me think, why was she choosing that? Because there's something about that that gave her that roller coaster, probably. It gave her something about that magical feeling. It must have been. Or
right.
else, why would you ever? And you could also say a trauma bond, too. Sure. I'm not going to dispute that either.
Hmm.
But to not mention the other side, I think, is not telling the whole story. I think, yeah, it's a trauma bond, but that's only part of the story. The other part is that excitement, that roller coaster, the feeling of something that the normal dudes are just not going to give you.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say the trauma bond for sure because I mean, you're the expert in this, but they say like if you're dismissed as a child, that's what you crave in the partner. So the ones that are dismissing you, and I've been guilty for that, those are the ones that you're trying to fight for their love and be validated. And it's so ridiculous when you can observe the pattern, but when you're in it, you're just so high off of it, you don't know. Um, but that's the same thing. I don't like routine, so when you're with just like an average person who's not exhilarating, it can get boring quickly. So the people that are more like you're speaking of, it's just like you're on an adventure and you don't have to worry about the real world. It's like it's escapism a little bit. You're escaping what the monotony of regular life.
That's what Robert Greene talks about in The Art of Seduction. He had said, everyone wants that a little bit, whether they say it or not.
Yeah.
But and it's true. Most people, they're going to be a sucker for that because when push comes to shove, there's just something magical about it where you don't feel more alive than that a lot of times. And people could lie about it to themselves, but there's an element of truth in it. And that doesn't mean you can't come out the other side. It doesn't mean that you're doomed to toxic relationships, but there's certainly that element that a lot of people, I hear a lot of women get caught up on it too, honestly. And the prettier ones in particular, they're the ones that they know it about themselves, but they just don't feel it. They don't feel it for the other people. And I can
Right.
get it. I get it because there's just certain people you're just not going to feel it for.
Right. And then I feel to the other extreme, like what I've been witnessing back to the dating world, everybody is chasing that exhilaration and that adventure, but they only want to stay there short term because it scares them. They're all looking for the attachment in the end and they want their safety net, but they're still chasing, like some of them are double life. So they're still chasing the adventure, even with mistresses, for example, but
Hmm.
they want the comfort of knowing that their wife is waiting for them and they can go back to their safety net, but it's boring. So it's like I feel like we need to find a way to find make a life in the middle somewhere.
Well, some people are saying ethical non-monogamy. What are Amber's thoughts on that?
So is that when you're casually seeing, like, so would you be married, or you're saying you're casually seeing more than one person? I don't
You
exactly
can be
know.
married. You can be
Okay.
married in E&M.
Okay, so I feel like I feel like I would like that, I guess, if both partners agreed and if there was trust and love still, but I also feel like I might get extremely jealous. And I've heard that sometimes one of the partners leave for the other one, and then you know what I'm saying? That
It's
would be
always a
hard,
possibility.
right?
Always
So
a possibility.
I feel like you'd have to enter into that arrangement knowing that something disastrous could come from it, and are you okay with that? And you'd have jealousy. But if you were okay with all that, I think that that could be exciting and adventurous.
Well, how about this? Because here's the other thing. It's much easier for a woman to have that than it is for most men. Not all men,
Mhm.
but for most men, it's going
Right.
to be easier for the woman to have another partner. But let's play with it a little bit. Well, what about if it was just open on a guy's end and not the woman's end? Would you ever do that?
So if I was in the relationship with the guy and he was allowed to see other people, but I wasn't,
Yeah.
oh, no way. No way. That would be horrific.
Or in
No
the
way.
opposite, in the girl with the dragon tattoo, the woman has that, but not the man. You ever seen that movie?
I don't remember it. I have seen it, but I don't remember it at all. I wouldn't like that because the man would definitely be jealous of that. I'm pretty sure,
This
unless
guy
that's his
wasn't.
thing.
This
Oh,
guy,
that was actually the storyline. Okay, he wasn't jealous.
well, it was a subplot in the
Mm.
storyline. The detective, he was the guy that the woman was seeing on the side, but she had a main husband. It was kind of an empowering feminist type movie, I guess.
Oh,
And that's why when when you look at it from that lens, that's probably what it was.
okay.
But this was not more of a cuckold dynamic, if that's what you're thinking. There wasn't that.
Oh, okay.
It was just she would go off to see this dude, and it
Just
was just
one,
okay.
just one
Yeah, I
dude.
think so. Yeah.
Well, this is how I would feel. I would feel if your husband is not seeing anyone but you are, I feel like I would be in love with the other person and then I'd not be in love with my husband and the husband would just be there like I said for the comfort and for doing the chores together and the errands, like the monotonous. So I feel like if the husband was okay to serve that role for you and he was okay that you're probably falling in love with the other person, but I feel that would be so painful. So I feel like the only way it would work is if both partners were allowed to date or whatever they want to call it, but they still enjoyed their marriage and they there was no way they were going to leave for another person. You know what I
And do
mean?
you think you would get jealous? Would you get jealous of a guy you're with being with someone else?
Yes. Like if it was an unspoken agreement and I didn't have to see it or hear about it, maybe I could be okay with that. I've never done it. But if I was seeing these other girls around in that, I would definitely be jealous. Although jealousy could be exciting, so maybe that would lead to a healthier relationship.
It
Who
depends on
knows?
how it plays out. Depends on how it
Exactly.
plays out. Or how about some couples I see, they're always looking for a third. They want to bring in some woman. Would you
Oh,
do that?
no. That's not my thing. That's not my thing because I feel I get jealous because I want to be the center of attention. So I feel like how like I just don't even I've never even done that to be honest. So I'm like how would I not be jealous when he's like focusing on her and not me? You know what I mean? That's not yeah, it's not my vibe.
Then you would be the third. Would you ever be the third going into a couple?
No, because then I feel like I'm some like pawn in their boring sex life.
Oh, okay. So you have a reason for it all.
Exactly. I have
Interesting.
reason for it all.
But these are the things I think they're coming up. These are the things that come up in a lot of relationships now because I think monogamy can be tough for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our marriage contracts as well, they're tough now too. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard people propose that, oh, you should have to renew your wedding vows every 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
or you get married and it's for a contracted time. And you can choose to either renew your vows or break risk free, which
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if that would be a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just an
I
idea I've seen thrown out there.
I've heard that idea and I really like that idea because I was in a long-term marriage and I speak to a lot of people that are in long-term marriages and I feel that at that phase. Maybe there's some lovebirds who are making it to 50 years. I don't know. But the ones that I've seen in my own experience, I feel at that point, you're stuck in pure routine and you can't leave because it's just not something you do and you don't believe in divorce a lot of the time. And then I feel like on both ends, could be the woman, could be the man, they take each other for granted, and you become invisible. So I feel like if you knew you only had 5 years, you would, if you really love this person, you would be showing up and actually putting in the effort, because you, at the end of the 5 years, you might not survive.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just something to consider
Yeah.
because I think marriage as it is isn't the most successful institution anymore.
Nope.
More than 50% fail. And I think we're going to have to reshape what it looks like at some point because they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Well, that's kind of where we are now with marriage, I would say.
Hmm. Exactly. And when you throw the kids into that and the rat race, I don't feel marriage can survive those conditions. It's too tough.
I think what I see in my own life is I think there's marriages that kind of came about, many of them before social media. They're doing okay, but these newer relationships, I think it's harder and harder for them. I think there's something that our phones are doing to our brains and our circuitry
Hmm.
that are making it more difficult, I think. I don't know.
And I feel like we spoke of the OnlyFans and porn. There's so much at your fingertips that, like, so if your wife, like I said too, if the wife is not sleeping with you, for example, you don't need her. You go to your phone, and then she knows you're going to your phone and disregarding her. She checks out. I'm saying it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing I'll say about it too, the thing that annoys me most now, I think, about a lot of the dating advice for guys, it focuses so much on the be more vulnerable, be more emotional, have you show emotions. And I'm thinking to myself, why are they so focused on that one side of it? And I think I know why.
Mhm.
But why do you think it is?
Why do I think men need, they're pushing the
Why
be
do you think that's
vulnerable?
the go-to for people? Why do you think that's the go-to? Or they'll
Um,
always say, show your emotions, be more vulnerable.
well, I don't know if you remember, I do have a movement on social media, vulnerability of the
I
day.
know, I know. I've given you one.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. How could I forget? You have one of my favorites. Um, so I feel like I'm all about the vulnerability, because I feel when we're vulnerable, it makes other people feel heard and seen, that they're not suffering alone, whatever. But to push that specifically on men, in a relationship, I do need to see some vulnerability, because I don't feel like we could get through a tough issue if they're putting up the wall. I need to see the vulnerability, so we can work with the problem. You know what I'm saying? If they're putting up a facade, you have nothing to work with. But I don't feel like all men walking around vulnerable, long term, they'd be able to function, and do their duties either, like their manly duties. They have to be able to go into that tough masculine energy as well.
I think part of why it annoys me is I just don't like being controlled. And I think them because if you're truly confident, you know what quote unquote vulnerabilities to display, what's too much, what's too little, etc. And you just know it. You don't need it bombarded down your throat. Be
Mhm.
vulnerable, be weak, be this. Stop. I hate it. But
Yes.
what I would say is, I think the reason why women focus on that in particular, and some men too, is they're thinking about the guys in their lives they were most attracted to, but the one thing they didn't get from that guy, that version of vulnerability, that version of
Yes.
that soft. But what they forget is, and this is where the lack of wisdom comes in, the reason why you were so into that dude is because he didn't do that. Like didn't do that. That was just the one missing piece. And maybe even if they did do it, maybe the relationship would work. Sure. But
Yes.
also it would also maybe come at a different price because that's
Yes.
a different thing. Like that's not what makes the energy electric between someone. Oh, when you're vulnerable with someone. No, that is not what makes that happen. Right?
Right.
So
It's so true.
it's a different thing. I
Yes.
don't say any of this to say to people, never. But I think it comes down to dudes being socially calibrated about it. You
Yes.
got to know what you can share, what you cannot share. And this is where the guys who are just insecure, everything snowballs in a bad direction for them because they just do wrong thing after wrong thing after wrong
Oh,
thing. And before
yes.
you know it, they're just in a terrible place. But if you're a guy, you know, okay, you got to have a little bit of openness with the woman, right? You got to be able to, so that she feels safe with you, etc. And there's a fine line with all of this. But I think that's really what it is. They're thinking of that guy that they were attracted to most. Oh, if only that guy was vulnerable. If only that guy did that. But what they forget is just that one component is maybe 10%, but they had the other 90% of what they were really attracted to.
That's
And then
true.
these guys who are clueless come in, they try to really emphasize that 10% in themselves. Oh, I'm such a vulnerable guy. I'm so this. And they forget that they just don't have the other 90% is important.
Exactly.
And maybe
Yeah.
that's a straw man of what's going on. Maybe. Do you know what a straw man is?
No, I know. I like love all these terms you have.
A straw man's a weak misrepresentation of someone else's argument. But
Oh.
I don't think that was really a straw man because that is what I see. I see people saying, no, be more emotional, be more this, be more that. And it's usually certain types of guys. They really emphasize that and they dwell on that. And a lot of times it's because those are the guys, they're not the hyper masculine guys. They're not the guys that are going to be like super jacked, etc. They're the guys that are maybe more intellectual or something like that. And they try to emphasize that. But
Oh.
again, I think it's because of what I said. I think those women are thinking about the one thing the guys they were into didn't have.
Oh my God. I just think that time and a place for the vulnerability for sure, because it's the only way to navigate those challenging situations, like in those vulnerable moments. But they need to be moments and not lifestyle.
Right. I would agree with that because I
Yeah.
think I just get annoyed by the total emphasis on it. Like
Oh,
even when
yeah.
you asked me, that didn't annoy me because I knew it was something different.
Right.
But if someone were to keep on dwelling on that, like I see some people do, you're not the type of person to dwell on it, though. I don't think.
No, no. I don't dwell on things.
Right. And so that's why it would be different to me.
That's so
But
funny that I asked you to do one of your most hated things, but it's just a coincidence.
but I think that was a good video, though. That was a good video I made about because it's kind of about what we talked about. It's about
Hmm.
the anxious attachment plus avoidant attachment. And I've had both in the day.
Hmm.
If I'm in a not as good place, I would probably lean more to avoidant now,
Hmm.
where it used to lean more to anxious.
Hmm.
But my experience when I was anxiously attached as a guy, it's repulsive. It's repulsive and it pushes women away faster than anything. And it just is.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Because
Sorry to all those guys, but it's 100% repulsive.
yeah, and it just is what it is.
Exactly.
And I think when you're in a good place on your own, you're much less likely to veer off into avoidant or anxious land. You're
Hmm.
more likely to be secure. But I mean, everyone has their shit, and there can be a time when they fall off into something. And
Hmm.
the proper order of things is the women are supposed to be more anxious, and the men lean more towards avoidant. That's
Right.
the general thing that's usually happens. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just what I see. And
Mm,
most women, because most women are going to feel safer with an avoidant than they will with an anxious dude.
yes, I agree. Yeah, but I feel like when we're with the avoidance, that puts us into our anxious.
Yes. Well,
Or me, at least me, it does. Because then, like I said, they're avoiding you, and then you're like, "Oh my god," and internalizing it all. At least that's my experience.
I think women would rather be in an anxious place than whatever place they get when a dude is anxious with them.
Big time, big time.
Because when a
And
dude is
because
anxious with them,
and then that when they're avoidant with you, from my experience, it's kind of like the bad boys, like you said. So then it's kind of exciting because your unhealthy pattern is like you have to chase them because they're avoiding you. So it's like it's unhealthily exhilarating. So you have to be able to identify these patterns.
Yeah, it makes sense. And here's the thing, though, too. As a man, and this is for everyone too, for that matter, when you're in a good place, you're busy, you're on your mission and purpose. I would say to guys, what does that look like? Like when you're really in a great spot, you're very
Hmm.
busy. What does your texting look like if you're that guy?
Hmm.
What does what is the tone of your messages when you're that guy? It's going to
Hmm.
look a certain way. And a lot of dating advice for men is to get guys to appear like that guy, whether
Mm.
he's not that guy or not. Whether he's that guy or not, they want him to appear like that guy. But when you
Hmm.
really are that guy, it just happens naturally. Yeah, you're
Hmm.
going to be busy. Yeah, you're not going to have as much time. Yeah, you should still try to make her a priority when you can, though. But
Yeah.
those guys that are in a good place because they are that person, they're just going to do these things naturally.
Hmm. Yeah, and a woman loves it, or me as a woman loves it when the man is like busy pursuing his goals. It's admirable. Like we like it,
Yeah.
like that he went to the gym and that he didn't cancel the gym for you. Like you want him to pursue his life, even if that means he doesn't see you as much. At least I would prefer to see him less and know he's ambitious and achieving his goals. And then when I do see him, it's quality. I don't want him to cancel everything and give it all up. You want him to be sufficient, self-sufficient.
You know what they say? If you're with someone 20% of the time, but 100% undivided attention in that 20%, that's much better than 50% attention 100% of the time.
Yes, 100%.
And I think that speaks to the quality of time. And that's
Mhm.
what David Dita talks about in that book, too, where he says, when you're in your masculine, it doesn't mean you ignore the woman either. It's more like when you're with her, you make her the center of your world. When you're with her, you give her everything you got in that time. But then when you're on your mission, you're on your mission.
Yes, I
You can
agree.
have both.
Right. And as sorry, I'm stuttering. An independent woman would feel the same way. She's busy doing her things. She's probably not going to have that much time herself. She doesn't want to have to be, entertaining you and looking after you. So when she gets those 2 days a week or whatever they're going to be, and it's undivided attention, it's going to sustain both of you for the rest of the week.
You know what I also see, I think a lot of guys struggle with now? The woman has more things going on in their life than the man does. The
Yeah.
woman has more ambitions, is doing more things, and the guy is just doing whatever. And I
Yeah.
don't think that goes well for him either. If the woman's, because I see a lot of ambitious women now. There's a lot of ambitious women
Hmm.
that are doing more. They're doing more than men are.
It's true. And I feel, in my experience, men get threatened by it, or at least maybe those are the anxious ones. They're threatened by it and they want you to give it up or to take them with you or to hold them by the hand. And then that is just suffocates you.
I think the guys that wouldn't like that are the ones that would be thinking to themselves, oh no, this woman's better than me or something like that. But a
Right.
guy who's in a good place, who knows, and he thinks, okay, I'm in a good spot. I don't think he's going to be as threatened
Mm,
by a woman's things. But the guy who's not in a good place, way more likely to be threatened.
yes, probably. Hmm.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I think so.
But all right, Miss Amber, any other closing thoughts you wanted to share with us?
No, I think we covered a variety of things and went into these topics that I didn't even expect to. So that was fun.
Oh, the conversation just flowed there, so it
Yeah.
happened the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, everyone. That was our conversation here. Thank you to the lovely Amber for joining us for a couple hours here. We'll probably put some of these clips on Instagram, Facebook, maybe TikTok, etc. Keep your eyes out for them. A lot of memorable, clippable moments here.
Yes. Can't wait to see them.
Yeah, you'll see them.
Yes.
And where can people find you?
Best place is on Instagram, Amber Lee underscore solidified sunshine.
Yeah, and you get to see her modeling her wares. What do you call that?
Get ready with me or outfit of the day. Check it out.
Yeah, it's good. A good follow.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Amber. You have a great rest of your
Okay.
night here.
Good night. Thank you.